Okay, so a very good morning to all of you. This is today's session. Okay, the topic for today's session is view, and let's start. Okay, so we'll be taking a dig into the view and various things which are associated with the view. Okay, so as per the tradition of this lecture series, okay, so I used to refer to this slide quite often, which says that in Java everything is an object. Okay, just because Android is based on Java, so you take this slide for granted in almost every lectures of this lecture series. So in Java everything is an object. So does the view class is also another object. Okay, so one of the object is a view. So this is how it is defined. This is how signature of a view class. It's a public class view and it extends object. Okay, as we mentioned that object is the base class and one of the immediate derived class is this view class among the various other immediate derived classes. So along with extending an object, this view is also implementing certain interfaces. Okay, and those interfaces are, let's say, callback interface, which is defined in drawable dot callback. So there's a callback which is there defined there in a key event also, and it also implements accessibility event source. Okay, so just because so that the view can handle events which are fired on it. Okay, and some of the subclasses, if we say that now we know that view is a subclass of an object class, but there are also subclasses of a view class. Okay, in the last slide we mentioned that there are certain interfaces that view class implements, but other than implementing those interfaces, it also provide the platform so that other you can also extend a view class. Okay, and one of the view class is a widget and there is a view group. Okay, so view group is further is acting as a base class for a layout. Okay, and layout is something it's kind of an invisible area that can contain other views. Okay, and widget is used to create an interactive UI elements, for example buttons, text fields, whatever you see on your Android user interface. Okay, so what view basically is, view is the main thing that deals with your user interface of an Android application. So you have many activities in Android application, and all those activities what you see is a collection of view elements. Okay, if you say button is a view element, text field is a view element. Okay, so they can also handle events. Okay, this is how different views of an Android look like. So you have a rectangular window. Okay, on this rectangular window you have multiple things. This is one kind of a typical example of a user interface of one particular screen. So you have a text view, okay, which is acting as a label here. Okay, you have an edit text view over which you can type something. Okay, you have a radio button view. So this is a radio button view. Okay, this kind of two buttons. So it's a mutually exclusive thing. You can either click form get or you can get mail get. Okay, and you also have a checkbox view. You can check multiple of them as well. There is an image button view. So on a button also you can have an image. Okay, and okay, just hold on. I got an important call to attend. Yeah, I am back. Okay, sorry for the interruption. So I was talking about that on your user interface, you might get multiple, views, and these are some of the views that you can get. I talked about text view. I talked about radio button view. I talked about checkbox view. Okay, radio button you can get select one of them. Okay, but in checkbox you can select multiple of them as well. Okay, there is also a view which is called image button view. That means on a button also you can have an image, associate an image, and then you have a date picker view. Then you have, this is called date picker view. Okay, and this is an image view. You can insert an image, and you have a button view. Okay, there's a button view over here also, but this button view is an image button view. Okay, but here this button is a general normal button that we used to see in Android application that you can press. Okay, however you can also press the image button view, but the thing is here you can write text. It's a textual oriented button, and this is an image oriented button. Okay, so these are most commonly used view classes. Okay, I told you whatever you see on the user interface, they are basically result of some classes. So these are some of the best, some of the text view classes. Text view is a class. Edit text is a class that is responsible for edit text. Text view is a class for text view. So here we saw text view. This is if you just remove a space from here, let's say you do not, if you just have a text in view, okay, without any space, so that becomes a name of a class. Similarly, here edit text, okay. So you might see a space over here that is by mistake, so you just ignore that space, okay. So text view is without any space. That's the name of a class that is responsible for generating this kind of a view. Similarly, you have edit text that is responsible for generating this kind of a view, which is editable. Okay, and button. Okay, we saw button here at the bottom. Okay, here at the bottom. So this is responsible for this the responsibility of generating this is for a button class. So image view. Okay, so we saw an image view here. Okay, image button. We saw an image button here. This is an image button. Okay, checkbox. We also saw a checkbox. So this is the form of a checkbox. Okay, a radio button, radio group. So here also you see space, so you can just ignore this space. Okay, however, when I am to upload this presentation on Moodle, I'll make necessary corrections, so you do not worry about those corrections. So radio group. Okay, so radio group can contain multiple radio buttons. Okay, because radio buttons, in order to ensure that only one of the radio button is selected, so you need to store these radio buttons inside radio group. Similarly, you have some of the views which are not visible in the last screen. Let's say list view. However, date picker view you can view that as a spinner view. Okay, so there is also a view which acts back in the background. That's called autocomplete text view. Okay, so once you start typing something in a text view, and it will automatically, not a text view but an edit text view, so you can associate that view with the edit text, so that you might get suggestions. Okay, and there is another class other than this view class. Okay, there's something called view group class. A view group is responsible for containing other views and other view groups as well. So you can just imagine that view group is a collection of views, okay, that it can hold, and it can also hold many other view groups. Okay. So once you know that what are the views, what are the various classes that are responsible for generating those views, okay, then you can think of certain operations that you can perform on the views. Like, for example, you can set properties. Okay, you can set properties of the view. Let's say you can set the name of a view, you can set the caption on a view, okay, visibility on a view. So you can also set a focus. Let's say user is interacting on that interface. Okay, so either you can do a focus on from a keypad, or you can also focus from a touchable touch. Okay, so whatever be the case, it asks for whenever a view wants to get a focus. Let's say whenever you click that view, if it is in a touch mode, okay, or whenever you touch a view when it is in a touch mode, or when it is not in a touch mode, okay, whatever be the case, it calls a method called request focus. Okay, so request focus is a method that a view calls to gain a focus. Or you can say whenever focus view gets a focus, or it gets a focus because of this method request focus. So other operation that you can do on a view is you can set up a listener to a view. I told you that views are also able to handle events. Okay, so whenever you click on a view or drag a view from one point to another point, or whatever action you to perform with the view, with the view, so there are certain events that are fired, and you want that those events should be handled. Okay, for an event to be handled, there has to be a listener associated with that. Okay, so you can also set up a listener for a particular view. Like in this particular diagram, it's like let's say a view is asking for a listener. Okay, will you be my listener? So activity says that, oh my gosh, yes, I will be your listener. Okay, so it's like you, for every view there is a listener associated with it. Okay, so this thing can be established using set on focus change list. You might see a difference in a color, like say here it's a dark gray color, so this set on focus change listener is also mentioned in a dark gray color, and something in a blue color, a light blue color, android view dot on focus change listener. So this view is for this view is for this view, so you pass a pass a reference to this object over here, android.view dot on focus change listener, and this is the listener. This dark color matches with this dark color, this blue color matches with this blue color. Okay. And you can also set visibility of a view. You can, let's say, initially a view is of some, let's say, the color which is visible, and you can also make it set some of its properties to make it invisible, or let's say partially visible, okay, transparent, opaque or something like that. So for that matter, you need to use this function set visibility, and that visibility is depicted in terms of some integer value. Some integer values are associated with some visibility thing. Okay. Okay. So you actually do not need to call these functions that were mentioned. Okay, so it's the responsibility of Android framework actually. So if you are not dealing with view group, okay, if you're not dealing with view group, if you're just using views, okay, you just are placing views in the container, okay, and you don't need to call these method yourself. Okay, Android framework is responsible for calling them. Android framework is responsible for doing measuring. They measure the controls, they do the laying out, they also draw. Okay, Android framework does measuring, does a laying out of the view elements, and it also draws the tree. Okay, so what happens, so if you, like in this case, if just take an example of this. Okay, so here also you can say that every element is represented in some fashion of a tree. Okay, so a parent control, and then the child control. Okay, let's say here you say that in this case radio group is a parent, and radio button are the child. Okay, so the entire screen can be labeled as some kind of a tree. Okay, so whenever you see over here drawing the tree as appropriate, the meaning of drawing a tree as appropriate means whenever you do some action with the view, let's say you change the dimension of a view, you set the background color of a view. Okay, some events are going to be fired. So how to handle those events? You are not supposed to call those methods that I just mentioned. It's a responsibility of Android framework. But in case you implement a view group, then you need to take care of calling these methods by yourself. Okay, so let's say you do that. Let's say you implement a view. Okay, or you implement a custom view. Okay, let's say here Android framework is saying in filmy style, आज मेरे पास measuring है, layout है, and drawing the tree as appropriate है, तेरे पास क्या है? So Android developer will say मेरे पास इन सब का override है. Okay, so Android developer is going to override these functions. Okay, so it's not like Android framework is only able to call these methods. Okay, and you can also as an Android developer also, if you, in case you are implementing a custom view, you can also make them overridden. Okay, but you do not need to override all of them. Okay, only override the methods that you think you require. Okay, you can have some kind of a overlay kind of overriding. So overriding means some of the functions you take out. Let's say you want only drawing to be implemented in your way, so you only make a drawing overridden. Okay, keep that measuring default, keep that laying out default. Okay, so you only override drawing. Similarly, you can also pick up some subset of methods that you want to be implemented. Okay, and let others be default. Okay, so you can start by overriding drawing the tree as appropriate by calling onDraw method. So you can override this onDraw method. Okay, so whenever you say onDraw, you need some canvas to draw. Okay, so Android provides that canvas through android.graphics.canvas. Okay, so in case of overriding, if you think of overriding certain functions, you need to know, you get to know about what you are overriding. So these are some of the functions that you can think of. Like here, it mentioned that आज मेरे पास measuring है, layout है, drawing the tree as appropriate है, तेरे पास क्या है? Okay, so those measuring, laying out, drawing, okay, is event processing are possible through these set of functions like laying out. Okay, if you are talking about a layout, there are three methods responsible for that. One is on measure, on layout, and on size changed. For drawing, on draw is responsible for that. Event processing, there are many events. You can have a key down event, you can have key up event, you can have trackball event, you can have touch event. Okay, so these are some of the events, and you need to, if you think that your application wants to override some of them, okay, you just see the definition of them and then you write a piece of a code. Okay, and similarly you also need to know the constructor. Okay, and there is a form of a constructor that are called, okay, when the view is created from a code. As the definition of a constructor causes the view to be created, and a form that is called when a view is inflated from a layout file. Okay, this second form should parse and apply any attributes defined in the layout file. Okay, and this method is called after a view and all of its children has been inflated from XML file. So you write a piece of initialization thing of a view in an XML file. Okay, and from an XML file, the user interface gets the values. Okay, and whatever rendering of a view that you see is the result of an XML file values that are set in the XML file. Okay, and that method is called on finish inflate method is called after a view and all of its children. Okay, I told you your user interface in the form of just imagine user interface in the form of a tree. Okay, so after it's called, this method is called after a view and all of its children has been inflated from XML file. And if you want to change some of its behavior, okay, then you need to override this method. Okay, so these are some of the other methods that you need to know other than these methods. Okay, here constructor, layout, drawing, event processing. You also need to know focusing and attaching. Okay, what do you mean by focus? So whenever a view gets a focus or gains a focus or loses a focus, so there's a method which is called on focus changed. Okay, and whenever the another function is called on window focus changed. It is called when a window containing a view gains a focus or gains or loses the focus. Okay, so when a when a view is attached to a window, there is a method on attached to window. When a view is detached from its window, there is a method called on detached from window. Okay, and there's another method which is called when a visibility of a window containing the view has changed. Okay, so that method is called on window visibility changed. Okay, so you need to know these methods before you think that you are going to override some of them. And when is the case that you need to override? Either you are building a custom view or you are doing something with the view group. Okay, otherwise you do not need to override them. So after this discussion of to override or not to override, okay, let's talk about some of the attributes of a view. Okay, attributes of a views are also called the properties of a view. Okay, so views are associated with IDs. Okay, so ID is basically the identification for a view. Like I told you that the number of views you have. Let's take an example of a button view. Okay, so in an XML file, let's say ID, for example, just imagine in a resource file, resource folder, there is an id.xml folder. Okay, and in that id.xml folder, okay, you have defined the various views in the form of XML tags, and you have defined their IDs. Like here in this case, button, okay, button tag, and then Android colon ID, and this is how you have written an ID. This is unique identification. Okay, and once you have defined this thing, let's say in an ID, and let's say there are a bunch of other views, and similarly the way you have defined a button ID, you have also defined the IDs of other views. Okay, and once you have done that, okay, and if you want to create a button, okay, so from an on create method of an activity that user is interested in, okay, define this. Okay, you can find the button here. It is defined here. It is, you can find a button. So it's in the resource folder .id.xml file. So in a resource folder there must be id.xml file, and find something with the ID my underscore button. So it will parse. So find view by ID will parse the entire XML file for a resource for the view which has this ID my underscore button. So it'll say that, okay, this is an ID with this particular ID, and this is that resource. Okay, this is that view. Okay, and view IDs do not need to be unique throughout the tree, but it's a good practice if you ensure that they are unique. Okay. Okay. So other attributes are, one of the attribute I mentioned it was ID, identification. Other attribute is a position. Okay. So position, if we talk about, position is defined in terms of locations and dimensions. Okay. And in order to get the location, you have getters also. Okay. A location is defined in terms of left and top. Okay. Left dimension and top dimension. Sorry, not dimension. Left and top. Okay. Left is measured in pixel. Top is also measured in pixel. Dimension is defined in terms of width and height. Okay. And for I told you that how to get a top, how to get a left. Okay. You fire these methods: get top and get left. Okay. So get left is going to get you the left or x of a view, x coordinate of a view. Okay. Get top is going to get you the top or y coordinate of a view. Okay. And both of these methods, okay, returns the location relative to its parent. Okay. And for example, if get left gets you 20, if you fire a get left, it gets you 20. What does this mean? This means that on whatever view you have fired this get left, that view is 20 pixels to the right of the left edge of its direct parent. Okay. And if get top gets you 10, so it means it's 10 pixels down to the top edge of its direct parent. Okay. This is what it means. So relative to the parent dimensions. Okay, and moreover you have other getters. Okay, these are some of the convenience methods associated with the position. Okay, these are called get right and set bottom. Okay, and the meaning you can, once you understand the meaning of a left and top, you can easily understand the meaning of a right and bottom. Get right and get bottom. Okay, like get top gets you the position from the top, get bottom you get to the position from the bottom. Okay, bottom edge of the direct parent. And similarly, left, you just substitute right with the left when you're going to define that. Get right. Okay. So next attribute is size. Okay. So size is represented in the form of a width. There are two kinds of width. Okay. One is a measured width, other is a normal width. Okay. A measured width is used to express the desire of a view. That it tells the parent that, hey parent, I want to be this big. Okay, express the desire of a view. Get measured width, get measured height. Okay, sorry, here it's defined in terms of width and a height. Okay, let me just correct it. Here I forgot, I just wrote width. Okay, it's actually width and height. Okay, let me just use H capital because W is also capital. Okay, fine. So width and height, you specify the size. Through width and height, you specify the size. Let me just expand it now. Okay, now it's okay. Now it's perfect. So there are two kinds of width and height. One is measured width and measured height, and width and height, normal width and normal height, which is the actual width and actual height. Okay, so width you can get through get width, measured width you can get through get measured width, measured height you can get through get measured height, and similarly height you can get through get height. So this is the getter of a height, and this width and a height are reality of a view, the actual dimensions, actual size of a view. Okay, and this is the desire. So whenever you redraw a view, let's say window is redrawn. Okay, so what happens? The Android framework is responsible for calculating the measuring, for doing the measuring. Okay, so that measuring will result in the resultant size. Okay, that is what it gets, a resultant or a measured height or a measured width. Okay, the intended height or intended width, depending upon how much you are squeezing the view or how much you are enlarging a view. Okay. So another attributes are padding and a margin. Okay. So this particular diagram is showing you what is a padding and what is margin. So here is a widget, is one particular view, let's say. Okay, and this is the original frame of a widget. Okay, how far the content of a widget, okay, are from its original frame is called a padding. Okay, and let's say this is a boundary which is touching other widget. Okay, so the difference from this boundary of other widget, okay, to the current widget is called margin. Okay, You can set a padding, however, the view is responsible. So by view, you can take care of paddings, but view does not provide any support for the margin. Okay, because view only takes care of itself. It doesn't take care of how far it is from the other view. So for that particular thing, you need to have a view group. Okay, so view group is responsible for handling the margins. So it's mentioned that even though view can define a padding, but it doesn't provide any support for margins. However, view groups provide such a support. Okay, let's talk about padding first. Okay, after that we will go to the margin. So you can set a padding by using two functions. Okay, if you're just setting a padding, absolute padding, you can just specify these values, and otherwise you can also set padding relative to its boundary of the containing frame. So for that matter, you have a set padding relative method. Okay, these are setters for the padding, and you can also have getters. You can also fire getters. So if you want to query padding, if you want to test how much is the left padding of view, how much is the top padding, how much is the right padding, how much is the bottom padding, or where the padding is going to start, where the padding is going to end. Okay, so you can fire these methods. Okay, and I told you about that margin. View doesn't provide a support to margin, but however, view groups provide such a support. Okay, so for understanding how view group is providing you support, this is the class which is responsible. Okay, so what was the class? Margin layout, view group dot margin layout params. Okay, this is the class which is responsible for handling margins. Okay, so another attributes are layout. Okay, so layout is measured. You have a measured layout. You have a measure pass. It is measured in two passes. Okay, one pass is a measure pass, other is a layout pass. So what happens when Android framework decides to lay out the element? Okay, first of all it measures the size, and once it has the measurement, only then it is able to lay out.
सर
Yes.
सर अभी सर हिमांशु मेरे साथ है, तो फिर सर मैं अभी मीटिंग लीव कर रहा हूँ, अब मैं हिमांशु के साथ ज्वाइन कर रहा हूँ सर.
Okay.
थैंक यू.
Okay. Okay. So I was talking about the layout. So layout is done through a measurement and laying out. Okay, so you have this function measure, which takes two parameters int and int. Okay, and it's a top-down traversal of a view tree. Okay, and moreover, let's say if there are these two subclasses that are being used to do the measuring. Okay, one of the class is layout params, another of the class is measure spec. So here also we saw something called margin layout params. Okay, and similar class over here is layout params. Okay, and layout param class is used by this view class to specify something to the parent of a view, that hey view, hey parent, I want this to be big. Okay, so it specifies the width and a height. Okay, measured height and a measured height. Okay, and measure specification says that hey Android framework, if you're going to measure me, like Android framework was able to do measuring, laying out, and drawing appropriate resources as appropriate. So it says to the Android framework by using this measure spec that hey Android framework, you measure me like this. Okay, so it specifies the way a view wants it to be measured. Okay, and layout params are the desires of a view. This is how big I want to be. This is how this is how wide I want to be. This is how high I want to be. Okay, and layout pass is also another kind of a top down, which is responsible for laying out after getting the values from the measuring pass. Okay, it used to lay out those values and drawing those over the screen. Okay, and next thing is drawing. Okay, so drawing is handled by walking the tree and recording the drawing commands. So you see here, let's say before a view is rendered on the screen, let me use an annotation to make this thing more clearer. Okay, let's say this is a kind of a tree that we have. Okay, let's say this is a view tree. Okay, some parent view, and then there are some child views. Okay, and what happens, let's say this is some particular guy and it is noting down the dimensions, noting down the commands. Okay, from this parent. Okay, after noting down, it comes down. Okay, and notes down the drawing commands. What do you want me to draw? So it says then it goes to this, what do you want me to draw? then it goes over here. What do you want me to draw? What do you want me to draw? So this entire thing is a view tree, and this particular guy, okay, is noting down the drawing commands. Okay, so here comes over here. So it walks the tree. Okay, so this particular, from a root to the bottom, it walks the tree, noting down the drawing commands. And once all the drawing commands are noted down, so this guy does what? Okay, this guy, then let's say it has a file. Okay, so the file looks bigger than the guy. However, okay, it passes this file to the screen. Let's say this is the screen of your mobile phone. Okay, and then this screen, Android framework takes this file, and you know because it has all the drawing commands, it follows all the drawing commands to draw the views, okay, in order. Okay, so this is what it is written over here. Now after this depiction over here, just read it. Drawing is handled by walking the tree and recording the drawing commands of any view that needs to update. After this drawing commands, the entire tree are after this the drawing commands. Okay, your drawing commands, like these are the drawing commands which are written in a list by the guy. Okay, the entire drawing command to the entire tree are issued to the screen. So this is the screen I was talking about, are issued to the screen. Okay, and these are clipped to a newly damaged area. Let's say on a screen there is some area, let's say you have resized a particular screen. Okay, and then after a resizing, okay, some of the drawing is not visible, so that drawing is clipped. Okay, the tree is largely recorded and drawn in order with parents drawn before. So parent drawing command are fired first. Let's say these are the parents drawing command. After that, the children drawing commands, and after that leaves drawing command. Okay, so if you set a background drawable for a view, then a view will draw it before calling back to its on draw method. The child drawing can be overridden. If you want to override that behavior, let's say I don't want this particular thing to be drawn on a screen in an order. Okay, then you can call this method. So it's all possible because of a view group. Okay, so view group has set children drawing order enabled in a view group. With you can also set a Z of a view group. Okay, Z means the order in which the background, what should be at the background, what should be the foreground. Okay, the position in the depth is called a Z over here. Okay, custom Z value, it can set custom Z values on the view. And if you want to force the view to draw, you can call invalidate. So invalidate is a method which is called, okay, whenever you try to redraw the view, or whenever some event comes and it says that I want to redraw. Let's say we will be seeing more in an action in further slides to come. Okay, let me just clear this drawing annotation. Clear. Okay. So here, now we're going to talk about event handling. We'll be seeing these methods that we just discussed, invalidated and other methods, okay, in an action. So this is event handling and threading. So first of all, we will be touching event handling, and then we'll be moving on to threading. Okay, so in an event handling, let's say, just imagine that this is a user interface that is in front of you. Okay, and there's a bunch of text boxes. Okay, and this is a button. So there is an event which is called click event. So it says that, hey, hi, my name is Click, and I have an event. I'm coming to click you. Okay. So it is talking to submit button. So submit button says that, okay, come, I can handle it. So now it says that, okay, I have come, clicked. So the moment that you get clicked, this is how it handles it. So it says that, oh, all my listeners, listen, I am clicked. Okay. So on listening to its listeners, so I told you that initially at the beginning screen that for every view, it asks for an event listener. So you need to set up an event listener, right? So it asks you in a proposing style, would you be my listener? So it says that, okay, yes, one of the listeners says that, yes. Okay, oh my gosh, yes. So on listening it, let's say a number of listeners have agreed to it. It says that, okay, let's say, what is the purpose? Let's say these are all the listeners. Okay, one of the other activity is associated as a listener also, and these are all text boxes are listeners. Let's say they asked this particular green screen, okay, hey Greenu, let's call it Greenu. Okay, hi Greenu, take the data. Hi Greenu, take the data. Okay, so the moment you click, the moment this button is clicked, okay, the entire gamut of the listeners take into action, okay, and they do the intended action. It just calls the listener, the button just calls the listener, and on listening, okay, all the listeners come into action. Okay, so what do? They pass this data. Let's say the purpose of a submit button is to submit this onto some file, some other file. Okay, so Greenu will say that, okay, give me the data. Okay, so all other controls will say, hi Greenu, take the data. Hi Greenu, take the data. Okay, give me the data. So this particular action, all the data that you have entered, suppose you have entered something, you click a submit button, submit event has occurred. Okay, it is warned that, okay, I am in event. Okay, I'm going to click you. Come, I can handle you. So it says that, okay, oh, all my listeners have clicked. So Greenu, take this data. Okay. And let's say there's another event other than we just saw an event which is called clicking event. Let's say another event is a resizer event. Okay, let's say this is a kind of icon that sometimes you get when you hover your mouse over the edge of an activity. Let's say this says that, hi, my name is a resizer. I cause an event. I am coming to resize you. So this button won't say anything, okay, because this resizing is going to resize the other part of a thing. So if this says that, okay, come, I can handle it. So the moment it says that I'm resizing, because resizing is not like a click. So click can happen with a click, okay, but resizing you need to drag the boundary, right? So it says that I'm resizing. The moment it says that I'm resizing, okay, this will call a method called request layout. Okay, so this activates its listener, and its listener is Android framework. Okay, so Android framework will say that, okay, I'll do measuring, laying out, drawing the tree as appropriate. This is the dialogue of Android framework. It says that I can do measuring, I can do layout, I can do drawing the tree as appropriate. Okay, request layout is fed to it. Okay, request layout is fed to it. You do not need to handle it because you are not implementing a view group over here. In case you are implementing a view group over here, you need to override these methods. But otherwise, okay, let these methods be the responsibility of Android framework. Okay, so once it has resized, it says that, okay, I'm done. So what is the responsibility of Android framework? What has Android framework done? It has changed its size. It has measured its size. It has laid out its style. It has got the measured width, measured depth, and applied those things. And it resulted into the new kind of screen, which is here, which you are seeing. Okay. So let's say you have associated some functionality to a button. Just imagine, you say you want whenever you want, let's say a button is to be clicked and its background is to be changed. So another, again, the click event says that, hi, my name is click and I'm an event, I'm coming to click you. Okay, so again the button will say, okay, come, I can handle it, I have a listener attached to it. Okay, so the moment it says it clicked, so it will say invalidate. So the function invalidated is responsible for doing something, background changing and all. So invalidate is also a call. The listener to this invalidate is also an Android framework. Okay, Android framework will again say, okay, I'll do measuring, laying out, drawing the tree as appropriate. Okay, and one of the method of these functionalities is invalidate. Okay, it will say the current screen is invalidated and new screen is going to come. Okay, so invalidate method causes this background to be changed. Okay, and yeah, after this event handling, I told you event handling and threading. After this event handling, now my event handling is over. Now we are going to talk about threading. Okay, so the entire view tree is a single threaded. Okay, even involving a view group. So one kind of a view tree that you are seeing on your screen as a part of the user interface is a single threaded. Okay, so there's one single thread. So here, in a tree form, you can think like this. In say a screen form, a visualized form, you can think like this. Entire view tree is single thread. One thread is responsible for maintaining every activity that goes on one particular screen. Okay, so this is what does it mean. But suppose you're working on other thread. Let's say you are working on some particular activity, and there is another activity. Okay, one activity has one user interface, another activity has another user interface. I hope you understand this thing. Okay, let's say you are in one particular activity, and from that activity, you want to make some changes to the view components of other activity. Okay, let's say here you are in this current activity. This is also single threaded. Okay, sorry, this is also single threaded. So what do you do to make changes into, you know, other activity? You need to make use of a handler. Okay, you're working on other thread, use handler if you want to make changes into other thread. Okay, let's say there is a button on one activity and this says that change that yellow to red. So this yellow you want it to be red. Okay, and this yellow button is in other activity, so it's just using handler. So it's going to use this handler to change that yellow to red. Okay. Okay. Now the other thing is focus handling. Okay, so a focus also, you know, Android framework will say that I can handle many things. Okay, I can handle routine focus movements also, other than its permanent dialogue. So what was the dialogue? Its dialogue was, I can handle, I will do measuring, laying out, drawing the tree as appropriate. Now its dialogue is changed. This is another dialogue of Android framework. This says that if you say focus handling and you do that, yes, I can do that. Android framework say I can handle routine focus movement in response to user input. Okay, so user can the moment user clicks on a particular element, okay, it means user wants that to be in a focus. Okay, so it can handle that. Android framework can handle that. It includes changing the focus as views are removed or hidden, or even the new views become available. Okay, let's say user clicks over here. Okay, not click, but let's say user has used some navigation key, okay, from a keypad, and in that case, this is a method. If you want to check whether it is focusable or not, some of the controls might not be focusable. Okay, if you want to check whether, yes, Himanshu. Yes, Himanshu, you have a question?
नहीं सर नहीं
Okay, I got your voice, that's why.
सॉरी सर वो गलती से
Okay, so kindly mute yourself, please.
यस सर
Okay, fine. I was talking about, if you want to, you know, check whether a view is focusable or not, you just need to call this method is focusable. So it will get you either true or false. If a view is focusable, if an element is focusable, it will tell you true, otherwise it's false. However, you can also set a focusable to true by calling this method set focusable true. Okay, and once you do this, and after you call this, it is bound to get you true. Okay, you can also set the control not focusable by if you pass false over there. Okay, and let's say there are two modes in which an activity can function. One is a touch mode, other is a non-touch mode. Okay, and in case of a touch mode, you expect a user to touch the controls. Okay, and you can ensure that a control is focusable in a touch mode by calling this method set focusable in touch mode. You can pass true if you want to if you want it to be focusable in touch mode. Okay, and you can check that later on whether that control is focusable in touch mode or not. Okay, by calling this method is focusable in touch mode. Okay, so if we talk about an algorithm which does this focus handling algorithm, that is what we call it. Okay, it does what? It checks the nearest neighbor in one direction. Let's say just imagine some application on a Windows operating system. Okay, how do you maintain a focus? You press a tab key. So once you press a tab key, that focusing algorithm gets into action. Okay, so let's say the first text box which is on one particular application screen is in focus. You do not want to, you know, click. You don't want to use a click of a mouse. You want other to be focused. You press a tab key again. Okay, so that functions by looking at the nearest neighbor in one direction, and in that case, the direction is from a top to bottom. So if that algorithm malfunctions, or if you are not interested in doing this kind of a focusing algorithm, if you do not want to use that focusing algorithm, then you use overrides. Okay, so because every control will say request focus, and request focus is going to be passed to the Android framework, and Android framework is going to use that algorithm. Because see, the Android algorithm says that Android framework will say that I can handle anything. I can also handle focus. But how does it do it? It makes use of this algorithm. Okay. But if you say that, okay, I don't want that default behavior of an algorithm of a nearest neighboring direction, then you do your functionality. You can override these methods. Okay. So you can override this request focus, and in that request focus, okay, you can say the next focus down, next focus. You can define these elements. Okay, and these are elements which you can provide an XML attribute. Okay, and you can assign these attributes to the view elements. That this will be the next focus down. This will be the element which is going to get a focus from a left. This is next focus right. This is next focus up. Okay. So I talked about touch mode as well. So in a touch mode, okay, what is going to happen? So this button is not going to get a focus in a touch mode. Okay. So what is going to get a focus in touch mode? Only the other controls. Let's say you can touch this text box. Once you touch this text box, this will get highlighted. This will get focus, and a keypad, virtual keypad, is going to appear on the screen. Okay, so that you can type, which allows you to type something into it. Okay, so this will say when you click onto this, or when you touch this submit button, okay, it is not going to get a focus, but it is going to call its listener. That's the behavior of a submit button. It'll say, listen, my listeners, I am clicked but not got focus. Okay, so listener will be activated and will handle the events of a click. Okay, so this particular thing is only is specifically made to make sure that that you need to know what gets focus in a touch mode and what does not get a focus in a touch mode. So always remember that the buttons are not going to get a focus in a touch mode. Only the other controls which are going to get the focus in a touch mode. So other things, scrolling. Okay, so Android framework has a third dialog now. It says that scrolling, yes, I can handle a scrolling as well. I can also support a views wanting to internally scroll their controls. This includes keeping track of X and Y scroll offset, as well as mechanism for drawing scroll bars. I can have that kind of mechanism. So for this kind of a scroll bar that you are witnessing over here, okay, there are three methods which are available. One is scroll by, other is scroll to, other is vacant scroll bars. Okay, so for all these methods, Android framework will be activated. So the listeners to these methods, listeners to these activities is Android framework. Okay, scroll by. Okay, you need a dimension, how much you want to scroll by. Scroll to, you can specify a dimension X and Y. Okay, to what point you want to scroll, or to awaken scroll bars, to enable these scroll bars. This is method awaken scroll bars. Whatever be the method, Android framework takes the responsibility, so let it handle that. Okay, so if you can tell me what's the time, do we have time to continue the class?
Sorry, it's 10:24.
10:24.
Yeah, 6
Okay.
minutes.
Okay. I think okay. Let's do it tomorrow. Okay. We'll be continuing from tags tomorrow. Okay. Because we only have 6 minutes left, and we also need to mark attendance. I'm stopping the share here. Okay. We'll continue our discussion tomorrow. This is for today's session. Okay. Let me just share an attendance link to you people so that you can mark your attendance.